What's up, everyone? My name's Justin Ancheta from SF Garnish Music Production. Hope you're doing great today. I'm going to be talking about mic placement and how to record into your digital audio workstation. Today we're looking at Ableton Live, as that's my preference of DAWs, but there's also Logic Pro, which is a great DAW, and also Pro Tools that are kind of at the top of the game. If you're also in FL Studio or GarageBand, these techniques will help you, okay? So what we're gonna be talking about today is mic placement, how to get the best sound from the source being your voice, your instrument, and how far away do you wanna be? Where do you want it to be on the instrument, okay? So let's go ahead and talk about mics in general. So the two main categories I would say is that you have mics that need phantom power and mics that don't. These condenser mics most often need phantom power. SM58s, SM57s, you're gonna be fine with without phantom power. So if your system is not working, check on your audio interface and turn on phantom power, okay? Just some basic ideas here. So SM57 is right here. If you look at these, this is the Shure microphones. It looks like it has this kick mic as well in this package. Up here in this corner, it just has a lot of, all of these mics take phantom power, it looks like. And these are all vocal mics. They can also be instrument mics. It would be nice to get a mic that can do everything for you. The SMB7 has been a great microphone for podcasters out there. But it also has translated over to vocalists and performers. I believe the first person that made it really popular is Michael Jackson in the studio, the SMB7. Obviously, the products, let's check out a few here. All right, so let's go down just through a couple mics. If you're trying to pick out the best mic for your studio, you probably want one that can be well-rounded. It can take in the low and the high. It can do different styles of instruments, okay? A lot of people do these tabletop mics, USB mics, these baby blue. Those are fine. I personally like one that has an XLR input so that it can go possibly through some hardware to kind of warm it up, some compressors or things like that, or go into your audio interface, which also many audio interfaces I have, such as the X32, has a bunch of compression and dynamic EQ inside of it. So I can then customize my sounds there. You can do pre or post effects and then send that to your DAW. Let's see, as we scroll through here, there's a lot of stuff to stay away from. Cheap wireless mics, definitely want to stay away from those. There's a lot of interference in those. You're gonna see cheap brands of drum mics and kind of knockoff mics for, pennies on the dollar. And what you're gonna get is that quality cut off that much. So I would really encourage you, I'm just gonna go ahead and put a few suggestions in here. SMB7. That's not what I want. I want a microphone. SM7. All right. There we go. So the SMB7, this is a great microphone right here that you can easily get for a decent price. And you can record instruments with this. You can record vocals with this. It has a large range of frequency, low to high. You can also look up online frequency, right, of certain microphones. And it's a great test. It might even say this grabs from 10 hertz all the way up to 20,000 hertz, right? That's a pretty big frequency range. Other microphones, such as the SM58, grabs a really good place for vocals, which is that kind of that 600 to 4K range. 4K is 4,000. We're talking about frequency. And so depending on what you are recording, right? If you're doing a kick mic, right? Or recording a stand-up bass, you're gonna want something with the low end. So let's just type in kick mic here and walk through a few that I personally like. Actually, let's type in there. This is a Audio Technica. Is that how you spell it? Not quite sure. It should correct me. All right. So some of these kick mics are going to be kind of like a knockoff version of the nicer ones. The AKG D112 is a nice, Shure kick mic, very popular. There's also a flat one that also slides right into instruments in a really nice way. If you have a calabasa or a kick, a cajon, that is also a good mic. So the reason why we're talking about the microphone, it's really the first place that you're going to pick up your source. And your source being, like I said before, your voice or your instrument. Now, going back to the SMB7 microphone that Michael Jackson used for voice, that is a mic that really works well for podcasting. You can get really close to it, and it kind of takes out the S's and the hiss of the voice automatically. You might need something to kind of boost the signal by about 10 or more dB. You can look up those boosters just for extra cost, but it's definitely helpful. There's also, top of the line microphones, Neumann U87, right? That's a microphone that's been around for a while. If you guys have the budget for it, that's probably, top of the game since the 60s and 70s and still is. There's a lot of Neumann U87 knockoffs or lookalikes. There's even a microphone you can purchase that is similar to it that you can actually assemble yourself. I think it costs like $500 or $600. So, excuse me, getting a really good microphone is going to be a great thing for your studio. Just kind of going from the source being the instrument or the person that's playing the music to the microphone through the XLR cord into your audio interface, then going to your digital audio workstation, which is on your computer. And then you have your monitors, left, right, hopefully you have two that you can listen to it, and some headphones so you can have it A/B and test it from different sources. I always love going to the car stereo still to listen to mixes and just test out how does it sound with different speakers, even playing it through a laptop or a phone speaker versus a car stereo, right? Getting that variability of small speakers and big boomy speakers, because you want it to sound good through everything. Some of the techniques that I'm going to go through today in regard to mic placement is really important to understand how much of certain frequencies you want, okay? So I have this special mic up here that I'm talking through, and as I get closer to it, it obviously gets louder, but also you're going to get more low end. Let's just go ahead and try that. So as I get closer to it, you should be able to get more low end from my voice. And as I back away, my sweet spot on this microphone, I found is about 6 to 8 inches away. Something that will also help out is your room. Where are you recording? Right now, since I'm just doing this live stream, I'm not really too worried about all the minor details of the background noise and what the room sounds like. But if I want to control that, you can actually put something around the back of your mic, right? To really control the sound and make it really kind of deaden the sound. There's less slap back, and then you can purposely put that in your post-production, right? How much delay in milliseconds you want to create that room and space. Because our ears actually hear things with that space, right? Not everyone or every sound is going to talk right into my ear an inch away. They're going to be spaced out across the room. And similarly, when you mix music, you want to actually space out your sound and place people left, right, back, forward, right? Create that three-dimensional landscape. So obviously post-production, you're doing a lot of that millisecond delay off the speaker to have it hit the speaker at different times. But when you're recording with the microphone, you can change just a little bit of that. It's more subtle. I would say that it's mostly dealing with low frequency and high frequency. How much S comes out, right? You might need to get a popper stopper right here to kind of take out the P sound and the S sound in your voice when you're doing a track. So that's a technique for vocalists, is find that sweet spot, right? Test it out close, far away, in the middle, listen back and find out what you like or what your producer likes, right? Give your producer or yourself the best opportunity in post-production to make your music pop out. Going on to instruments, we have a stand-up bass behind me. We have guitars, a charango, a tres, a mandolin. All these instruments can be recorded with a nice condenser vocal mic, such as I have right here. That's what I'm doing with most of my recordings in this home studio. If I was at the studio, at Soul Graffiti Studios, let's just go back here and go to another mic that we were looking at. We weren't looking at cars, we were looking at microphones. All right, so let's go to images. And here we are. Okay, so these microphones right here are gonna pick up different frequencies. The mic on the right here is a great instrument mic. So I would encourage you, let's just go ahead and see what they have here. Okay, this is great. The SM58, it's a performing mic for vocals, and the SM57, sure, is a instrument mic, and it's for performing. However, if you're in the studio and you want to utilize these microphones, these are great options. The Shure microphone kind of doesn't have a lot of the low capabilities of picking up bass, I would say, or lower instruments, but for a vocalist, or even for some instruments, the 57 works out great. You might want to put a popper stopper on that because there isn't too much coverage up here or even up here in the studio to stop the S's and the popping. All right, so this is actually showing you, where the sound is coming from. And what's great about these microphones is it actually stops sound coming from far away. So I actually use this in a podcast outside, and there was distant sound going off. I think there was a chainsaw like miles away, and I thought it was going to disrupt my sound and I was going to have to do some type of filtering in post-production. And as a matter of fact, the 58 just didn't pick it up at all. The people talking on the microphone, they were really hugging the mic really close, which is actually how you want to use the 58 in a live performance, right? Is really close. And that's how we recorded this podcast. And everything else in the background was pretty much not even noticeable. All right, so it's going through a bunch of other microphones here. I would definitely do some work on some investigating on Sennheisers. I believe my favorite mic is the Sennheiser, is it the 985? It says 965 here, so maybe it's a new version. Great performing microphone. But going into other options, right, is we have the options of studio microphones. So let's just go ahead and open up a few windows here, kind of show the details of these microphones. All right, so showing the price here a little bit. It's a kick drum mic. I would say for $249, that's a pretty decent price for a kick drum mic. I personally don't have experience with this mic, but what you're going to be looking for is what the frequencies say here, right? So this pass filter creates a 10 dB rise from 60 hertz to 100 hertz. Okay, so that's gonna, they're boosting it to kind of show off that frequency, that lower frequency. It also drops out at that 7,500 hertz, 7.5 kilohertz, right? So that's kind of giving room for the vocals in a mix. So it's kind of doing some work here for you. You can also do this in post-production with a microphone, is you can actually purposely boost certain frequencies with a 57 and get similar effects out of it. All right. Well, it looks like this page does not exist. That is unfortunate. So this is a great microphone for, it could be a drum mic, but also this one translates to guitars, translates to higher frequency instruments very well. The Audix D2 is a really good microphone for your toms. So this is more in the tom area. They say, yeah, snare and tom. And these are the condenser mics that are going to be your overhead. Overhead mics are great microphones for doing a left-right stereo of shaker percussion. It can also pick up great for a mandolin or a stringed instrument that's smaller, even a violin. The Neumann right here is an excellent mic. It says guitar mics here, but obviously this can do a lot of things. I would say these mics shimmer a lot. There's a lot of upper range catching of those higher frequencies up in that, 2 to maybe 16K frequencies and up. All right, so going back to our session here, we're back in Ableton Live 11. I almost said 10 because we just upgraded to 11 in the past month or so when 11 came out. And what I want to talk about now is just going on that same vein of how I would mic up different instruments, okay? So I'm gonna actually pick up some instruments behind me. I'll probably just do acoustic instruments today that don't plug in. If you do plug in 1/4 inch, having a DI plugged in plus a microphone is a great way of kind of doing an A/B of being able to capture 2 at once, right? Getting your DI direct in of your instrument and your mic in. Even with an electric guitar, you can even get that to get some of that of your hand going over the string with the pick can create a nice effect that you can put in your mix layer above or behind based on what sound you're going for, what quality. So I do have a little bit that I've created in this already, but I'm just gonna kind of start off with the basics here. I wanna make sure that when I'm recording, I wanna have my click on. So this is my BPM is at 100. I'm gonna make sure all these tracks in session view are turned off with right here, the stop function. And I'm gonna make a new track. I'm gonna go Command T. Now Command T creates this new track and I'm just gonna name this whatever instrument that I'm about to do. The reason why I wanna name this first is that it actually grabs that name in the recording file too. So it's a little bit easier to organize all of your files and find your files later if you name them right away. Instead of just saying audio 1 for everything or audio 2, audio 3, this is the mandolin. You can even say for a specific song to even make it easier to find. Especially if you're doing things where you're creating samples for other people to use. This could be a really good organizational piece. So let's go ahead and do mandolin. And what I tend to do is I uppercase the first letter, but I make sure everything else is lowercase unless it's a grouped channel. A grouped channel is a collection of smaller channels grouped together to mix as a group. So that's kind of just a organizational piece. So this all, right, is all capitals. Everything else isn't up, except rhythm all is a group, and you can expand that out. So here we are, mandolin. All right, so here is an opportunity. So I have the X32, okay? So if you don't pop up with all these options here, you're gonna want to make sure that you're set up correctly. So Command comma goes into preferences. You can go file preferences. Okay, and now I'm in my preferences here, and I'm going to make sure that my input is my X32, output, input and output, X32. My input configuration, notice how I have all of them listed here. Okay, this allows me to have mono inputs 1 through 32 show up in that drop-down menu so I can pick which channel I'm actually plugged into. stereo outputs, you only need, a left, right of 1, 2 most often. If you want a separate headphone option, you want to do 1, 2, and 3, 4, right? Which is how your cue out can go to your headphone and not the crowd or not to the other people in the room possibly, if you want that. I have more here because I like to send out specific different instruments at different times, different scenarios. Today, we're not doing anything complex, but just to give you a little more information around why it's set up that way. So when I click here in the audio from, it's an external in from my audio interface, the X32 rack that I have. And an easy way to find out where your voice is, you can remember where you plugged it in the back of the X32, but you can also, watch this. Right? I can just do that clap. I see it over here. That's where it's moving on 12. So I'm going to make that my input. So I'm going through a lot of the basics here because I've been noticing that a lot of people are needing help with just the bare bones of how to record, right? So I'm going to get through that, and then I'm going to get into mic placement and how far away you want to be on certain instruments. Then I want to record enable by clicking right here, the red record enables. And you can see now that it is going up and down in that area. So I have a push 2 in front of me, so that's why I'm able to press play and stop and have some shortcuts here. It's definitely helpful to have the push 2. If you don't yet, I highly encourage you to check it out. And if I haven't mentioned already, I don't think I have, we have an Ableton workshop starting April 11th. It's Sundays from 11 to 3. It's online. So if you guys want to take part in this 36-hour workshop, please contact us. Email us at sf@garnishmusicproduction.com or sf.garnishmusicproduction.com, and we'd be happy to let you know how to get into that class and get all these details. After you take Ableton 101, 201, you're going to be able to get through session view, arrangement view, and start creating your songs and having your workflow and shortcut codes really work for you, right? The goal is to keep that inspiration and not get stuck in Techlandia, which is so easily done these days. So we want to help you guys out. So going back to helping you out, I'm going to record something, but I want to make sure that it's to a click. Okay, you don't always have to do this. If you're playing with a live band and you want that natural feel and flow, maybe you don't do a click. However, the click in post-production really helps you out. If you can copy and paste different sections, cut sections out, move things around, bring in different instruments electronically, your click allows you to do that. If you don't play to a click, then you're gonna have to warp things to make it in time, and it's just really clustery, I would say. Doesn't work very well. So I'm a fan of using the click as much as possible. So I'm gonna turn it on. And you guys aren't hearing it because the cue out is not set up for you guys. I'm gonna turn it on in your headphone too. This is my out, actually, to my stream is channel 5 out. Bringing that up. All right. So if you have a stereo mix that's only coming through the left side, if you want that stereo, you can always change it. Right now it's on 3. I can go 3, 4, right? And that makes it now stereo. Oops. There we go. I'll bring up the other side. That's what I had to do. All right, so you guys hear the click going on. Now the goal is to just have it in my headphone enough to where it's not bugging me, but I don't lose it when I'm listening to the music, right? For now, it's just the one instrument, so I don't need it too high. But you can adjust your 3, 4 out, which is your headphone mix of the click right here, okay? This is just the headphone mix of the click. This output is your master of your music, okay? Which is your 1, 2 out, right? That's how I have it set up right here. Cue out is 3, 4. Master out, 1, 2. Okay, that's just how I've done it. Obviously, you can do it any way you want. The benefits of doing a 3, 4 out yourself and putting it somewhere else is that if you're at a live show, you can test out instruments in your headphones. You can listen to the click, and no one in the audience will hear that, right? Just the master out 1, 2 will be sent to the audience. All right, so let's go back into, let me get an instrument here. Oh, and a pick is ready for me as well. All right. So one thing that I like to do is make sure that I'm tuned up before doing anything on the mandolin. And inside Ableton, you're gonna find a tuner. I have it in my favorites over here, my collection. I have a tuner right here, but if you don't have this set up yet, I highly encourage you to go to Audio Effects, right? And then type in tuner, and it's in Utilities, tuner. Drag and drop that onto the Mando channel, mandolin. Now notice when I'm talking or playing the mandolin, it's not coming through my tuner. The reason why is that we have our monitor off. Now when I go to auto, it's going to take this channel and bring it through, okay? So this actually might make a different sound. Oops, somebody's calling me here. I'm gonna make sure I quit that so that doesn't happen again. And let's quit everything here so no one is disturbing this feed. All right, so what I'm gonna do is stand up a little bit, get closer to the microphone. This is something based on levels of frequency, right? The mandolin is a pretty high frequency. So I'm not sure if I'm worried about picking up the low end of the mandolin, so getting really close. However, I do want a strong signal. There is no popping sound or anything like with the voice. You have to be worried about getting too close. So I can get as close as I can without it actually me hitting the mic while I'm strumming. So that's something just to consider there. Going back to what I was talking about here, I'm gonna go into auto. This might actually change my stream now because this is, so notice how my voice actually comes through 2 times. I'm not sure if you're hearing that. There's a minor 15 millisecond delay. And what I'm gonna do is turn off my microphone that's sending directly to you. And I'm just using Ableton as my source, as my monitor source, okay? So it's gonna pick up my voice, it's gonna pick up the mandolin, anything in the room. And notice how the tuner is now working, okay? So a lot of people are like, my effects aren't working for my live instrument. Why? Well, this is the reason why. You wanna be in auto to tune your instrument. So going through the tuning of the mandolin, this is actually a cool fact, is that the mandolin tuning is the same as a violin, double strings. G, D, A, E. That one slipped. So notice how I'm actually pretty far away from the microphone right now. And it's sounding decent. What I have going on is some effects, some dynamics on my X32. But overall, you're just hearing the room here. I'm actually noticing that there's quite a bit of room sound. If I was to really record this as professional as possible, I might actually baffle up something around the back side of the microphone. And I would really pay attention to the distance, okay? So let me actually do a little bit of that. I'm gonna get So right here, I'm about 12 inches away from the microphone. I have it facing down, and I'm making sure that the front of the microphone, even though this microphone picks up around, and you can even change the setting on this, by the way, on your microphone, so check that out. I want to be on the front side. It's going to be a big difference if I accidentally have my mic turned the wrong way. I want it pointed directly at my instrument. I often, in most instruments, the F hole, right? So it's on here, or the sound hole of the guitar. I go generally right, I try and point it right here in the middle, okay? Because I want to get some of this side a little bit, and I want some of the body. Sometimes if you go right over the sound hole, especially on a guitar, it could be too boomy, so that you can just go off of it over the top of the neck right here, maybe fret 12, point it right there, and that's a pretty good spot. 6 to 12 inches away, I would say, or even a foot and a half, is decent. All right, so what are we gonna do today? All right, we got a tempo. Okay, let's do something basic. All right, so I just did a duplication of the track so I can continue talking to you guys. I did Command D by clicking on the name of it, Command D, and I go to a new track here, and I can delete this and do another loop. All right, so what I noticed there is that on this one, when I get into looking at the track, in the beginning I don't like that. So I want to go and bring that to this last part. Now, what I have set up here are my sends. I'm just going to give you an example of this really quick. Is you click this R right down here on the side, all your sends are set up. I believe on yours, when you get Ableton 11, it might just have like a reverb and a delay, or just might be send AB empty. And you can fill these in. You can create your own by right clicking and creating more send tracks, right? Which is audio return tracks. Okay, so I've created 6 tracks here, small reverbs to high, large, and then delays, low to high. So 3 each. And the reason why I do that is that it really has the ability to quickly mix things. I don't have to drag and drop different delays or reverbs onto my track. It saves my CPU and RAM because it's all here, and I can share the effects with multiple channels. On my large reverb, I actually have it panned all the way to the right as well. So you have a lot of customizations you can do off the bat there. So closing down my returns, and so the A, B, C, D, E, F is representing reverb, 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 delay, delay, delay that you just saw in my returns. And I know that I kind of want this middle reverb on, and probably a little bit of this shorter reverb. And the big reverb, not quite sure about yet, but I'll put a little bit of that. Often I do this one by one very meticulously, but for this sake, I'll just kind of do a quick representation. I'm noticing that it's a little bit off, so I'm going to quantize. All right, and my delays. Now, when I recorded this, this is really sounding like a mandolin, and it's pretty tinny. You can change, like, just as long as you get a good source. I was close enough to get a decent source. Now I can go to my effects in post-production. I have some things here that I've saved, some racks that I personally like. And I'm gonna put these on. Actually, let's go ahead and put it on all of our mandolins by selecting. So you select one, and then you go to the last one, press Shift and click the last one. I'm selecting all of them. I'm going to group them, Command G. And I now, since this is a group, I'm going to say Mando all, and it's capitalized. Okay, this is where I want to put some different racks that I've created. You can create your own racks very easily by grouping effects together. Okay, if you want to learn more about that, come take our courses at SF Garnish Music Production, or check out more on our YouTube page. There's a lot of hours and hours of free classes there you can check out. Join our Discord as well, Soul Graffiti Studio Discord. And thank you to SF Garnish, Garnish at Large, the Garnish Network, Garnish.tv, EDU for inviting us out to do this weekly live stream. I'm dragging and dropping this into my Mando all. Now notice right away, my voice got louder because you're listening to the effects on this channel, okay? So just so you guys can still hear my voice, right? Outside of this is I'm gonna duplicate this and rename this as Vox Live, okay? Now this is my vocal live. It has just the basics. I'm going to drag that out of my group, but literally just taking that name and dragging it over. And I'm going to make this my live channel. I could actually do multiple live channels by command and then clicking right there. And now you can hear that I'm a little bit softer. I actually do like having that capacity to boost my signal using Ableton. And actually, if you look at my EQ here, there's certain frequencies of my voice that I might want to bounce out. So this is something that you want to be able to listen to in your instruments, right? So as you're listening to my voice moving around, you're hearing and seeing the frequencies. This is how you can practice learning your ear. Where are the frequencies that are a little bit more disturbing to listen to? I would say that there's a little bit right there. And I just drag that down, right? I might make my cue point a little bit tighter. Oops, wrong one. There we go. I often use cue points around like 5 to 7. So I'll just do 6 across the board here. The reason why is that when it's so wide, when you do a movement, it really, it'll take out too many frequencies, right? You want to be a little bit more accurate with your movements. With your EQ here, I often make it to where it's the ability to just bring out certain frequencies, right? And my low is curved down to drop out, you know, below 60 hertz or so. And then and my 8 is dropped. So what we can do here is on this frequency, I then can maneuver this around to take out that high end. This is what I want to do on the mandolin, okay? So I'm going to make sure that you can hear my voice really well when I'm talking. Notice how the voice is actually in that frequency of about, you know, 800 to, I would say, 4K, which is up here. And so we might want to make a wider cue point for this and get the voice to really stand out, okay? So I'm just going to keep that on and diminish this out because we're not going to use that anymore. And our mandolin track now, okay, these individually do not have the rack, but I did put the rack on the group channel of the mandolin all, and notice how it comes in with this EQ. I should just change this for good, actually, because that's how it should look. And what I want to do is bring out some of the highs. So I'm going to listen to the mandolin and do this work. So notice how just below 200 here, there isn't too many frequencies of the mandolin. It's a higher range instrument. And so if I'm dropping down to that 10K, it just allows to take a little bit of that sharpness off of the instrument. Now, it might be that it's not the sharpness of the source of the instrument. It might be on the effect itself. Okay, so if I go into my return channels, what frequencies are coming out of this channel? And this is where you can actually put in the same rack, right? And cut the frequencies out in certain areas so that, and it's actually doing that a little bit already right here, this low and high cut. It's saying above 5 and below 8.3, 830. It's cutting out the frequencies, okay? But the chorus, having a little bit of there on your effect, now that's getting pretty cool. I'm gonna actually bring that up because we're just using a piece of that. Let's go ahead and play this again. I'm gonna Command C, copy this over to another channel. This is, I think, the one that I'm using more of. All right, I'm gonna turn my metronome off. Now what I'm gonna do here is just listen to the reverb by soloing this B reverb 2.5 reverb and customizing it. When I do this, my voice will go off too. Actually, let me just give you a little bit of my voice otherwise. All right, so we're listening just to the B reverb. And this is how you start customizing just this reverb. So what I'm doing here is just taking this frequency and sending that. So when I'm sending through, let's go ahead and minimize our reverb here, go back to our channels, and actually let's just keep that visible, closing down our effects area, bring our reverb back up. Okay, so what we're doing here is on our reverb B, we're sending these signals. So as I push it 100%, you're gonna hear more of it. Hear that mud down here? I actually don't want that. This is more dialed of a reverb. It's just above 1K. And then that crispiness on top is actually too bright for me. So I'm cutting that out. I can even take out these other things because I'm just using 1 and 8 here. All right, now opening this back up again. We're listening now to the full mix, okay? And as we do that, I actually really appreciate the clarity that just came through on that instrument, okay? So I actually want, on the Mando itself, right? I want this lower frequency of 200 hertz, right? Which when we listen to it, or when we watch it, let's go ahead and do that again. Notice how a lot's coming through all the way down to like 600, right? 600, 700 is popping up right here. So what we want to do is keep that in the instrument. However, in the reverbs of the instrument, we want more precision. So what I'm doing here, this is another way that inside your reverb itself, you have an EQ. Okay, so this is our large one. We're gonna cut that and kind of do a similar EQ. It's just kind of a smaller representation of that. And this is one we have this extra EQ on, so no worries about that. And this one, let's go ahead and make sure this one is also cutting that low cut. So when your effects have really specific frequencies, it gives room for that kick and low end, right? Because what you're trying to do is create space for your speaker to play everything that you create. So we are getting into more than just recording here. We're getting into mixing in our DAW in Ableton Live 11. And, but you are noticing though that the post-production, because I mic'd really good at a good distance, got all the frequencies of this instrument, the mandolin, I was able to then do everything I want to in post-production. If you don't mic a voice properly, if I'm up here on a microphone and I'm talking, I'm getting too much of the P's and the S involved. I don't have a popper stopper on. I don't have that cage around to get the right sound. It's going to be more difficult in post-production. You're going to be taking out all those S's. You're going to put a de-esser on. It's going to take hours of editing your track, and you don't have to. The source, if you get the source right, it's going to save you tons of time. All right, so let's go to another instrument. Let's call this the Charango. Oops, there we go. So I click on the name and I go Command R. Charango. Okay, we're already in record mode on that. And I took monitor off because if I did this right now, my voice would come in double, and it's just a little bit too much for that. And it might be too much specifically for you for a show to hear your voice twice, right? You just want to have one source or purposely two sources and do some effect in that way. But just have that intentionality. That's what we're really teaching here, is how can you be intentional with your music, not only as an instrumentalist, but as a producer, right? Because you really got to think of yourself that way when you start working with a digital audio workstation. I really think that Ableton and even Logic and a lot of these digital audio workstations are becoming their own instrument. And we are going to get more into that on how to create your own instrument. If you didn't watch the live stream from Sunday, please check that out. Lorenzo Gordon from LA, one of our teachers, really did a great job of just customizing instruments and some post-production. I wouldn't even say post-production. It's actually, yeah, creating the sounds you want using wavetable, etc. So I have an instrument called the Charango here, and it's an Afro-Peruvian instrument. Let me just go to a different view so you see it better. All right, so in the world of Charango, you will sometimes see an armadillo backing here, but this is actually a fiberglass backing, I believe. And we're pretty in tune. I think I'll just hold off on the tuning because I don't really want to tune live. Let's go back to our session here. We have it named Charango, and I'm going to then, let's see what key we're in. I might need to use a capo to match the key, right, that we are in on the mandolin. Let's go ahead and play this here. All right, so we found the chord. It's in open tuning. I'm not even sure what we're going to be doing here, but most of all, we're learning how to mic up different instruments from your home studio, right? How close do you want to be to your condenser mic? What kind of mic is it? If it's a pencil mic, right, an overhead for drums condenser, right, it's pointing down like a Neumann or whatever kind of mic it is, you can actually get farther away right? But specifically for a microphone such as a Sennheiser or a Neumann U87, let's just consider a Neumann U87 as like, that's the bar that we're trying to emulate with our microphone. We want to get as close as possible without creating any other sounds, right? If I actually touch it, right? We don't want this to be touched at all. Okay. Now, let's go ahead and try this out. Turning my metronome back on again. All right. All right, you can see what I did here on this track. And this is one take, but what I did is I did a fast kind of plucking version and then an open version. And what we can do is just duplicate this down by clicking on the scene and then Command D. And this next one, I want to start on the back side. And this first one, I just want to take the front side. Okay, so let's go ahead and listen to just those. All right, this is the second one. Okay, so now we have some variation going on. And all the work that I did on my EQs of my sends, my returns, reverbs specifically, it applies to my ABC here, right, on my Charango, right? So I'm saving some time. A big part of being productive with your beat making and your track making is being able to save your work that you do, right? Being able to save these effects that you like, okay? So what did we do earlier in this session that we liked? Let's go ahead and look at some of our EQs and what we did here. Nothing really new here. What we did was we added in this vocal rack to our EQ of this reverb. Now, it's as easy as selecting all this, right? You can just go Command A, actually, and then, dunk. Interesting. There we go, Shift. That's this. It might have changed in 11 versus 10, but I'm doing Shift, selecting all of them. I right click, or I can just go Command G, and it groups it. Now, you didn't see too much change here, but something majorly changed. This little thing on the side has my entire chain of my reverb and the effects exactly how it is, okay? You can also, this is something new, you can do macro variations right here and change between them easily. This is really helpful if you want to get really big and wide and then cut it. All right, so this audio effects rack is my custom reverb, and I'm gonna go ahead and press save. And actually, you know what? This is another feature of 11, that 10 and below, you always have 8 here. You can press the minus button and bring them down, right? Just make it nice and clean, right? All the way down to 1 macro. So I'll save it like that. And this is going to be reverb A01. So I just had a reverb before. This is actually the rack of it though that kind of customizes the sound. So now that I have that, I can then right click it and put it into my effects, which is my collection. Really important to get this pre-production down, because now I can put that on any instrument, different sessions. If I go to a new song, I'm like, oh, I really wish that I had this thing from this other session. Well, you do have it. You just saved it and you just put it into your effects, right? In your audio effects rack, right? It's right here. So if you have any questions, please let me know. I actually haven't been paying attention to the live stream comments this time too much. I apologize. If you want to be in touch with us and get specific questions answered, contact us at sf@garnishmusicproduction.com. We even have a telephone line, 510-463-4769. That's 510-463-4769. Big gratitude to Dave Garnish and the Garnish family. We're streaming live to all of our locations worldwide. Please check them out. We have Hong Kong, Germany, London, Nashville, New York, LA, SF. Did I say 7? I think there's 8 actually. So let me know what the other one is that I missed. If you want to check it out and find our locations, go to edu.garnishmusicproduction.com, right? And there's online lessons there. Check us out. Each one of our studios has boutique lessons in person. We're getting back to that. So check us out in the Bay Area, sf.garnishmusicproduction.com. We have an awesome audio video studio called Soul Graffiti Studios. Soul Graffiti Studios. And SF Garnish is right there. So please click like, subscribe to us. We appreciate the love and support. And if you have any questions about your digital audio workstation, even beyond Ableton, contact us. We have tons of professionals in all workstations, even MPC controllers, push to, etc. So be in touch. We love you guys, and we'll see you next Wednesday at 11 a.m. Pacific time.